So today's question kind of grossed me out a little bit, to be honest, but I think you're going to get a lot from it because we're going to be talking about how to stay in that feminine energy without mothering guy when you're in a relationship. Here's the question.
I'm asking this for a friend. It's truly a friend I'm asking for. Her fairly new exclusive relationship with her boyfriend said through a text message, "This is likely going to test our relationship, but I've got a gnarly bump in a hard to reach sensitive location. Can you help?" And she didn't know how to respond to it, and I didn't know how to help her. And we were both just grossed out by the whole thing, but it just didn't know how to respond. So anything that we came up with to respond just seemed to be not appropriate. And how would you respond to something like this? Which leads me to my next question. When a high value masculine man is sick, our instinct is to jump in and care for them. But I suspect this is mothering and maybe demasculinizing. I don't know. How do we just ask, is there anything we can do? And then just let it go. When they say, no, I'm fine, just let it go. So one question for me and one question for a friend. Thanks.
Well, Alex, anytime we answer questions for friends, we kind of know what this really is.
I love it. I love that. A friend, of course. A friend.
It's okay. Hey, let's start with the bump one, and then we can go into the more important question, I think, which is about feminine energy. But if a guy's got a bump in a hard to reach place, the dude needs a doctor, not a wife, to figure that out. So send him to a doctor. Ask him, do you have health insurance? I do. Great. Do you have a doctor? Yes, I do. Go talk to your doctor, you idiot. How about that? That would be my response. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah. It's funny because it's like, they're like thinking like how you're doing the thing you feel like you should be doing, right? You've been coached up your whole life in a relationship. Your job is to be supportive. You're supposed to be there for your partner. And what I always say to that is you're supposed to be there, but you're not supposed to be everywhere. And where they're describing that bump, that's not a place you want to be. And it's like, this is a new relationship. Like, you don't ask your partner to clean your teeth. You go to a dentist.
Yeah. And he's not even your partner yet. I mean, I know you use partner, in relationships. You're in a new relationship. Look, if I had a weird bump in a hard to reach place, sure. Would I go to my wife, Jessica, who I've been with for 9 years? I'd probably be like, hey, Jess, check this out. But you're in a brand new relationship.
No,
absolutely
not.
Still don't?
No, you should not do that to your partner. Do not do that to your lovely wife, Jessica.
Hey, check this out.
No, you don't do it.
Dude,
sometimes, and I'm serious, like sometimes you got to show respect for your partner by not asking them to do the thing they might say yes to doing, but don't even put them in that position, because it's going to end up with you like bottoms up on the bed with a mirror and flashlight, maybe a headlamp. Like, it's going to be a mess. Like, no, don't do that to your partner. Absolutely.
All right. I promise you, I'm coming to you next time. You're the doctor. You're my doctor.
Hell no. You also, this is not maybe related at all, but like when you go to the bathroom, close the door. That's another thing.
Yes,
like it's the same principle. We don't need to be closeness. There are limits. This is some bad bumps. You go somewhere else for that.
Yeah. Set some boundaries here. Just tell him to go see a doctor. And, if it really is actually on his in his seriousness, if it's on his genitalia, make sure you follow up about what the doctor said about his little bump over there. Because I don't know about that. Now let's get to the more, I think, important part of all this, or the more important question that I think would be helpful for everyone, which is, what I heard is, how do you stay in your feminine and be nurturing without getting into mothering mode and squashing his masculinity? My initial thoughts is that being nurturing and caring and supportive when someone is sick, bump aside, we're not talking about bump. We're talking about just when a man is sick or a person is sick, stepping into that nurturing and caring and supportive energy. That is feminine energy at its best. And a man does desire that, and so would a woman, like in when situations are crossed. And so I wouldn't be too concerned about that when someone is ill. I think mothering comes in when you try and be overly nurturing when someone is not ill and they don't need it, when you're kind of stepping over boundaries. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of heard her question. I think she wants to nurture, and I think she's worried about emasculating him and maybe him saying, "Oh, no, I don't want help." Because I think from the guy's perspective, we're supposed to be tough. We're not supposed to be needy. We're not supposed to do anything other than protect women. Like, that's how we've been raised. That's how we've been socialized. And so I think she appropriately wants to nurture, but is worried that like that he might have like backlash because of her nurturing side. And I think in these kind of situations, and she's talking about like a physical thing, like when somebody's sick, but I think all this applies when a guy's emotionally vulnerable too. It's that you want to make it super clear to your guy that you find the fact that he needs your help and you get to help him, you find that really attractive, that you find it appealing, that you find this an amazing part of your relationship that builds connection. And if you really want to hook them, tell them you find it a little sexy, because that is going to like, oh, you help me. Like, okay. Like, because he is worried about you seeing him as weak and needy. So he's going to pretend like he doesn't need any help. He does. Because remember, for guys, their female partner is the person they're likely closest to. It's likely their best friend. It's the person they go to. And so he does need you. He's going to pretend like he doesn't. But so you got to kind of like open up the door and make it super clear that this is something you want, you welcome, you enjoy, and that it's going to bring you closer together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think when a man is married or in a relationship with a woman, that is the person that is going to be the most nurturing human being to him of all people in his life. I mean, at this stage, you know, assuming he doesn't have a weird complex with his mother, honestly. But other than that, assuming he has a normal, healthy relationship with his actual mother, chances are you're the one that he can actually be most vulnerable with. And so if you do create that kind of safe space for him where you're like, you know, it is kind of sexy when I can actually kind of give and help you. And it's not when he's sick, but in other areas of his life, being able to even assist him when he's got something at work, like being able to really just be there for him. I think that is actually an incredible way to build that connection. The only thing that can happen that I want to caution all of you towards, and Gary, I'm interested in your thoughts on this, is some women find it unattractive when a man actually lets his guard down. Women will say all the time, oh, I want a man who's emotionally open, want a man who's very vulnerable. I want a man who listens and all these. I will listen, actually take out listens. I want a man who's emotionally vulnerable. And then they get that sensitive, emotionally vulnerable man, and then they actually find it unattractive. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Garrett? Because I think that's like one of those things you think you want it until you get it, and then you get it, and then you're like, that's actually not attractive at all.
I think those women that struggle with that need to like spend more time figuring out what they really want, because what they think they want, they don't. And I mean, I don't know, like in the grand scheme of things, should you want a guy who's more emotionally available? Yeah. Like that's the kind of guy, like if assuming you're optimizing for that long-term fulfilling committed relationship, the guy who's more able to access his feelings and be emotionally vulnerable, you know, maybe cries, right? Like all that, that's all good stuff. That's good long-term commitment stuff. And so women are right to say that they want it. And then you're right though. Like we've heard it from clients. It's like, you know, this guy, he's so gentle, he's caring, he's kind, he's all these great things. But he does cry at movies. And you know how I feel about this. I'm a crier. I'm getting a little defensive of the criers. But I think like, isn't that like what you want? Like it comes together with the package, and it's like, that's a good thing.
Yeah. It's just like, it's not hot on a visceral level. I get it.
Right.
Like when a guy's crying, sorry, Gary, it's just not hot to women. Like, it's not like, oh my God, I want to jump his bones because he's crying. But it's much more intimate. It's an emotionally intimate moment if you're actually crying with a person, even if it's just watching a silly movie where you shouldn't be crying together. The Notebook, you got me every time. We already know this. Don't get me crying right now. And I think when we mature in life and we are really ready for a long-term stable relationship or marriage or a lifelong partner, suddenly we should just be valuing that emotional intimacy over what's hot. Right. You know, like a guy who pulls away and is hot and cold and is really guarded, that's probably hot to a lot of women because he's mysterious. He knows, you know, when to pull away at certain moments. He keeps you in, you know, he keeps you in the dark on things and you just can't get him. That's hot. Okay. But a guy who is stable, he is emotionally available. He's vulnerable. He is willing to give a good cry. He actually opens up about his insecurities and his fears in life. That's not going to be necessarily as hot, but you're going to build such a better connection. You're going to have such a better lifelong relationship. So it really is balancing those two. And just realize that you tend to not get both. Like women always want both all the time. The super... Like they want the emotionally unavailable guy who's also emotionally available. So you know,
when you want him to be,
when you want him to be,
like at the exact moment you want it to happen, and it's like all of a sudden that starts to feel pretty demanding, right? And I do think, you know, it's like you're saying, it's like there's a time and a place for everything, and I think I say this a lot, but we have to remember, like, what gets you together, those aren't the same things that keep you together. And if you're in these relationships and you're in dating and you're looking for a partner and you're thinking about the long term, you want to focus more on the keeps you together side of things. And it's the emotional availability, the emotional intimacy, that's on the keeps you together side of things. Right. And so it's like, if he's a little, you know, too cry emotional at first, maybe, but it's like, how is this going to like project off into like 5-10 years in the future? And like that stuff becomes more important.
Yeah. So to round this out, if a guy is sick and you find that you're getting into kind of nurturing mode, but don't want to get into mothering mode and emasculate him, just kind of see where his boundary is, right? Let's see where he communicates it. If he's sick, he's in bed, you bring him chicken soup, you thought of him, I wanted to make this for you. And he's like, I'm fine, I'm good. Okay, no problem. And you back off a little bit. But you know, that's okay. That's not mothering. That's being nurturing, caring partner, in my opinion. And just find kind of where that balance is. And as the relationship progresses, I'm sure he's going to open up a lot more.
Yeah. And I would just kind of, one last thing to add to this is make it clear that what you want to do for him is something that you want to do. Like, this is going to bring you joy. This is going to bring you greater connection. That it's not that he needs help and you have to assist him and he's weak. It's like, I want to do this because this makes me feel good. And so that flips it around a little bit and takes the responsibility off of him and allows him to still be strong and masculine and all that great kind of stuff. But also allows him to also be a little bit vulnerable. And again, like we said before, just make it clear that you find vulnerability attractive. Really, really important.
I wish that Jessica loved to give massages to me for her. Like, I wish she just like loved that. So Jessica, I want her to actually hear this. So she can give me lots of massages, but it's not for me.
Right.
It's for her. It's for her. So Jessica, if you're watching this video,
she should check your bumps and also massage it. Got it. She's so lucky. She's so lucky.
That's a good place to end this one. Thanks, Gary.
Yep.